maybe he was going off of the succession letter is
Could
what
be.
Bishop wanted. That's probably what made him made that statement. But we know now that it was,
It's extremely important.
yeah, just the direction that we're going in. We're in an ever changing world. We talk about
Yes.
we're in an ever changing world. So it's a lot of there's a lot of things that we used to do. Just
Mental capacity tests.
a mental evaluation. That's right. So
They
many
had to
different
be,
things.
they had to be fully and completely vetted to make sure that they could handle the business of that church. You're
Along with several of the saints, it's disheartening. Um, just to even see our brothers and sisters on the other side, just being bamboozled,
yeah.
being bamboozled by these.
Organizational context is it's in black and white. If you want a copy of these bylaws, if you drop your email, I can send you them because they're clear. They're logged at the state. This is public information.
And I
After
called
Bishop's
you.
death.
Yeah, after Bishop's death. I said, hey, bro, this is the same guy that was, talking all this noise and stuff and saying all this, this ill intent, this very malicious and degrading things about
the nasty stuff.
Right.
Another podcast post from Conversation Kings. This is literally a cry from the heart of a ministry, New Life Church of Orlando, because we have been wounded. We have been seriously maligned. Well, what's up? What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to another edition of the Conversation Kings. I am your host and CEO and progenitor, Elder Marcus Scaniers. Yes. Scaniers is here. And tonight, we are still doing what we've been doing for a while. I told y'all that I was going to come back to continue things that we've learned. I think that it's very important that we continue to put these things in place and talk about the building of ministry. How does a ministry rebuild after a tragedy? How does a ministry rebuild after it has been, destroyed in the midst of so many things and taken over? Unfortunately, that is where we are at New Life Church of Orlando, but we are on the way back up. And so we are not concerned too much about the verdict. We are not too much concerned about what is going to happen. However, I do want to caution everyone that you never know what the court is going to say. And right now, you don't even really know what the people on the other side are doing behind our backs. And we do know of some things. We have heard allegedly that Dennis is trying to start his own district. He's trying to be a superintendent in his own district, and that's completely fine. I don't know who would, for whatever reason, follow that. I wouldn't follow it to a hog killing, but at any rate, I want to talk to those people who are trying to build a ministry and those people that are wanting to build a ministry. If you are rebuilding and if you are starting a foundation, these are some of the things that you really, really need to know. And we're going to talk about legal structure. We're going to talk about legal resurrection, structuring the church God's way, not our way, but God's way. Because when you do it the right way, things like this, what we are going through, might happen, but in the end, you can win. And what you want to do, though, is make sure that your legal structure, your business structure is completely solid. What I don't want is, and what no person, no man or woman should want, is that their ministry end when they die. No, should a ministry end when the founder passes? If the founder leaves or if the founder passes away, does that mean that the ministry should end? And my My viewpoint is no, it absolutely should not. And not only should it not end, but it should thrive, and it should thrive under the people who have been selected and voted in to carry the ministry on, not from someone who has decided that they are going to just take over arbitrarily and do what they want to do, when they want to do, and how. Unfortunately, we are in that situation where we have someone who has taken over. They are doing what they want to do, when they want to do it, and how. And it has left us in a conundrum and a quandary. But we are on the way back up. So give yourselves a hand, New Life, for being on the way back up. But I am just not speaking to New Life. I'm speaking to any ministry out there that is trying to build, any ministry out there, any person out there that wants to start the ministry and they want to know how to do it the right way. These are the processes and procedures. And so this right here, what we are actually going into is lesson 4. We're actually going into lesson 4. We're going to start and state the incorporation. And the objective of this is to legally register the church. It is something that needs to be done. Your church has to be legally registered. It has to be. It has to be legally registered. And if it is not, if your church is not legally registered, you're going to be in trouble, sir, ma'am. You are going to be in trouble if your church is not legally registered, if it is not structured correctly, if it is not done right. And if it's not done right, then shame on you, because you need to make sure that your church is set up the right way. And so we're going to actually go into that to make sure that we have done the things right, and that we are helping you to set your ministry up the way that your ministry should be set up. Okay, so what I want to start off with basically is talking about the legal resurrection. The legal resurrection means how you're going to set your ministry up, and we're going to go through the phases of that so that there are no questions about what should be done, what needs to be done, and how it should be done. And so if you have your pen and your paper handy, if you have your writing utensils, then you are in the right place. And this is what I want you to do. I want you to take some notes. I want you to take some notes while we are going through this so that you can understand what's next. Okay. Now, again, welcome back to Conversations that Build the Church. We're not just talking about the revival. In this point and place, I'm actually going to be talking about and teaching you how to rebuild. And this episode is going to equip you with not only the spiritual knowledge, okay, it's going to equip you with the spiritual mindset and legal framework that you need to legally form or reform your church after a transition, after a death, after a hostile takeover. And this is for pastors, this is for administrators, this is for trustees. This information is for anyone that is tasked with rebuilding a church and rebuilding the house of God the right way. So the most important thing that you have to learn how to do is to set up your framework. All right. You have to set up the framework. You got to lay the groundwork. You can't build. You cannot build. Listen to me clearly. You cannot build what God wants without order. And so the base scripture for laying the groundwork is 1 Corinthians 14:40. It says clearly in that scripture, let all things be done decently and in order. So this is not just about paperwork. When you're starting a church, you're rebuilding your ministry, or you are building a ministry, you have to understand that it's not just about paperwork. I've seen churches since I've been in ministry. I have seen churches fall apart, not because the spirit was gone, but because the structure was missing or the structure was usurped. And so tonight, we're walking you through 7 legal and biblical steps to help you rise from rubble and rebuild God's house with integrity. So even if you need to restructure your ministry, this is a lesson This is a segment that is going to be very important to you, because restructuring your ministry and doing it with integrity, not only restructuring your ministry and doing it with integrity, but also setting yourself up for success and not for failure. It's going to be very important. So let's start with naming your church. Now, Genesis 2:19 says that God gave Adam the authority to name everything in Eden. He told Adam, he brought the creatures to Adam. He told Adam to name them. And listen, ladies and gentlemen, saints and friends and pastors and bishops and prophets and whoever, and administrators and apostles, whatever you are, that's not just poetic. In the legal world, naming something gives you ownership. It establishes your identity. So when you name a business, a church, or a ministry, you are naming your ministry and you are establishing your identity. You are letting the world know who you are. But here's the mistake that people make when they are naming their ministries. What they do is they pick these trendy names. They don't even check with their state databases, and they don't think things through. So their mission or even their theology, they are just, oh, we're going to call ourselves the light on the hill, and our ministry and our theology is going to be this, that, and the other. What you need to do before you start your ministry, or before you pick a name, before you choose a name, before you rename your ministry after either a rebuild, a reconstruction, or if something has happened that you have to start all over again. If you have to start all over again, you need to search your state's corporation's name, your corporate name database. That's what you need to do. Whatever your state corporate database name is, you need to go to that website, go to that database, and grab a domain. While you're at it, you're not just branding, you're claiming territory. You have to claim your territory. So you need to be prayerful about the name that you choose. You need to listen to God regarding the name that you choose. And you also need to make sure that you are setting things up the legal and the right way. Go to your state's corporate name database, grab a domain while you're at it. And remember that you're not just branding, but you are claiming territory. Now, moving on to segment 3, which is extremely important. It is extremely important because this is step number 2. You've done step number 1. Now you're moving on to step number 2. And step number 2 are your articles of incorporation. This is extremely important. Now that you have a name, it's time to legally declare your existence. And you're going to do that by basing it off of the scripture. Habakkuk 2:2 says, write the vision and make it plain. That's what your articles of incorporation are. Your articles of incorporation are your vision. Here in my hand are the articles of incorporation for New Life Church of Orlando. These are the articles of incorporation that I have in my hand. Again, these articles of incorporation were filed on July the 20th, 1999 at 3:35 p.m. Eastern time, right? Eastern time. That's when they were filed. And it's by the Secretary of State, Tallahassee, Florida. It is the Articles of Incorporation file. This is a certified copy and a certification of status. And again, it was filed on July the 20th, 1999, and it was received July the 20th at 2:00. It was received at 2:43 p.m. stamped, and then it was filed at 3:35 p.m. and stamped. Okay, that was all done. And the Articles of Incorporation of New Life Ministries of Orlando, Inc. Let me put that up here for those of you to see so that you can understand what this is. It's documented. It's documented. They say the Articles of Incorporation say to the state that we are here, we are nonprofit, we are mission driven, and you need to include your purpose, which is a dissolution clause, and make sure it states you're not organized for private gain. That's important. And these articles of incorporation do state that. If you skip this portion, ladies and gentlemen, if you skip this portion, you may never be recognized by the IRS and you'll be operating in a legal gray area. And that is a portion of what was happening after Bishop died. That's what was happening after Bishop died. We were operating in a gray area. The articles of incorporation that we have on file, that are still on file with the state of Florida, and have not been legally demolished, ceased, or anything like that. These articles of incorporation are still in process and in play. It's our statement. Article 1, Article 2, our purpose, our primary purpose, Section A. Section B, the further purpose. Our qualifying members. Anyone shall qualify as a member of this corporation and will be admitted when he or she is accepted by the membership guidelines set forth regulating membership found in the official manual of the New Life Ministries of Orlando, Inc. Yes. Yes, yes, yes. And it lists all of the officers. There's a list of all of the officers. Many of these people are gone. Yep. I see somebody's name on here who used to be a part of the church, and he sued. Nowhere, when I tell you nowhere on this is the name Dennis Hutchins. Nowhere. When these articles of incorporation were filed, Dennis Hutchins' name is nowhere on this list. Nowhere. These articles of incorporation may be amended upon 2/3 vote of the majority of the membership. Proposed amendments shall have been presented in writing prior to the date of the meeting at which the proposed amendment is to be acted upon. 2/3 vote of the membership present. Nothing like that ever happened. Once Bishop passed away. We didn't get the opportunity. All right. So again, if you skip this, you may never be recognized by the IRS. Unfortunately, thank God, we are recognized by the IRS, and we are not. Once we get back up and running, we will not be operating in a gray area. So we have to make sure that we put our bylaws. In those bylaws, we want to have the purpose. You want to have the structure. You even want to make sure that meetings are conducted, and the meetings have to be conducted once a year, annually. You should also have quarterly meetings. There should also be quarterly meetings, and there should be space for amendments. And any type of amendment, before it can be amended, it has to be voted on. All right, it has to be voted on. Now, the next thing that you want to do, this is step number 3. You need to get your EIN. And this one is extremely simple. It's very, very simple. All you have to do is go to irs.gov and get your employer identification number. This is your church's federal ID number. You have to understand that even Jesus in Matthew 17:27 paid taxes. Why did Jesus pay taxes? Not because he had to, but he needed to avoid offense and be above reproach. That's what we're doing. When we set up our EIN, our tax ID number, and we become a 501c3, at that point, that is when we become legal. This is the easy part. Once your articles of incorporation have been submitted to the state, reviewed, and accepted, you're legal. You need to have your EIN in place. All of this stuff needs to be in place before you even submit your articles of incorporation to whatever state it is that you live in. And you need to incorporate with the state. Now, here's where you become real in the eyes of the law. Let's go to Jeremiah 29:7. It says, seek the peace of the city. What that means is that you operate legally. Pay the fees, the required fees, submit your articles of incorporation, and get that certificate. Don't just be a church in the spirit, but be a church that stands in court. Had we not had these, had this information not been filed, and had it not been done correctly, we would have had no legal standing against Dennis Hutchins, even though at the moment he has taken all of the money. He has spent hundreds of thousands of dollars frivolously. At this point, we do know that Robbie Pressey from out of New York has joined him, allegedly sold his house in New York, allegedly moved to Florida, allegedly helping him to pastor New Life under his faction. Robbie Pressey, who was not a member of our church, sold his house in New York, allegedly, and is moving to Florida to help Dennis pay bills, using his money to fund using his money, apparently, possibly, allegedly, to fund Dennis's legal fees, because he has raised funds before. We've watched them on their service, raising money for a legal fund to fight against the majority who followed these articles of incorporation, who wanted to make sure that things were done as these articles of incorporation state that they were supposed to be done. And if you are operating outside of your articles of incorporation, or you're operating against the articles of incorporation, you are in the wrong, period. So this is why it is important to understand and to note. And I just want to, I'm going to kind of fast forward things just a little bit, because I want to back up just a bit. All right. I'm going to back up to right here, because listen to me carefully. The bylaws are your covenant. Bylaws are our covenant. Titus 1:5 says, set things in order and appoint elders. That gives it structure. Your bylaws should answer questions. The questions are, who runs the board? That's going to be the president and the CEO, right? How are the finances managed? How is conflict resolved? The danger of neglecting your bylaws, you lose your 501c3, you lose credibility, and you risk abuse. The bylaws were neglected wholly and completely by Dennis and the people that were working with him and for him at that time. Get a real bylaws template. Don't copy someone else's. If it doesn't reflect your mission and your church governance, don't copy something that someone else uses. Get your own template and use your own template for your bylaws. Get registered with your EIN, speak to legal counsel so that things are done correctly. Make sure that your board governance is set up. Who runs your board? Is that person credible? Is that person trustworthy? Does he or she have integrity? Does he or she have the ministry, the ministry at heart? Does he or she have the people's best interests at heart, the ministry's best interests at heart, the community's best interests at heart? Then you have to figure out, how do you elect or remove leaders? All of those things have to be structured in your bylaws. How are your finances managed? Those things need to be done correctly. We cannot afford to run a Mickey Mouse operation or like a mom and pop shop. It's not going to work. It is absolutely not going to work in this current day system. If you are operating like a Mickey Mouse, you're going to be Mickey Mouse. Your church is Mickey Mouse. You are not. Your structure is Mickey Mouse. Your structure is mom and pop. You changing money, changing hands, like whatever. No accountability, because people do not want to be accountable. That's why they want somebody to hand them money in an envelope. And I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that. But when you operate, if you are not operating in a 501c3, then you can do it like that. But legally, if you are operating in a 501c3, you cannot. That's why you get a 1099 when you go to some churches. They give you a check and they give you a 1099 at the end of the year. You get one because they have to file their taxes. And when they are filing their taxes, the money has to show, the records have to reflect what came in and what went out. What are you deducting? All that stuff has to be done the right way. And mom and pop's churches don't understand that. Mom and pop structures don't understand that because they're operating it as if it's their own private bank account. And when it's a corporation, you cannot do it that way. It cannot be done that way. All right. Now, understanding, you have to get the IRS form 1023 or 1023EZ. That's what needs to happen. The IRS form 1023 or 1023EZ. Okay? Get that form. Get that form. This is a big one, because this is how the IRS is going to formally recognize you as a nonprofit. 1023 or 1023EZ. This is a big one, again, because this is how the IRS recognizes you as a nonprofit. In Nehemiah, it says, Nehemiah 2 to be exact, it says that before Nehemiah rebuilt Jerusalem, he had letters from the king granting him permission. That, ladies and gentlemen, is what the form 1023 or the form 1023EZ is in this case. You'll need to write a narrative of activities. What is your ministry plan? That's going to be one of the last things that you do. What's your ministry's plan? All right. What's the primary focus, the primary purpose? The primary purpose for which this corporation is formed is to cultivate, formulate, promote, promulgate, and extend the teachings, precepts, practices, and disciple of the New Life Church Ministries of Orlando, Inc., denomination and conduct, and maintain a Christian church according to said principles, creed, precepts, practices, and disciple or discipline of said denomination. That's part of our purpose. And that is what needs to be narrated in your bylaws and your articles of incorporation. All right. You'll need to write a narrative of activities that your ministry plan. That's your ministry's plan. When you write a narrative, you need to submit your articles, your articles of incorporation, your bylaws, and your financial projections. You have to declare your religious purpose and show how no one in your board is personally benefiting. No one on the board should be personally benefiting. No one on the board should be personally benefiting. Understand that. This is so important, ladies and gentlemen. No one on the board should be personally benefiting from any type of income that comes into the church. If you are on the board and you are being paid any type of money, you are operating illegally. Illegally. I'll say that again. Declare your religious purpose and show how no one on your board is personally benefiting. No one on the board should be personally benefiting from the church. If they are, again, you are operating illegally and you are in a gray area and you are subject to review, you are subject to audit, and you're subject to losing your status as a nonprofit. And you are also subject to possibly being shut down, especially when you are in the throes of legality, when you are in litigation. You have to be very, very, very careful that you follow the process Even if you have like an interim administrative board like we have right now, we should still be following the way that it negates in these articles of incorporation. We still should operate, even though it's an interim administrative board, it still needs to operate in the sense that we are still a fully functioning board. Does not mean that we throw this away just because we are interim or because we are in litigation. We want to continue to walk this way. The way that these laws, these articles of incorporation were set up, you want to make sure that you walk in that way. You do not want to negate doing things the right way. Because when you go before the court and there is a review, because once you go to court and I have a strong belief, and I have a strong belief that what the appeals court is going to do is tell us to go back and do it the way that the first judge asked it to be done, which is a restructuring. We're going to have to vote again on a board. We're going to have to vote again on who is going to pastor the church. All of those things have to be redone. And the only reason that the judge told us to go back and do it again is because we did it backwards the first time. Okay. And I'm finding out just by listening to different conversations that, people had some things to say even about that. And of course, I have to admit, because the judge pointed it out to us, that we did it wrong. We voted on a pastor and then we voted on a board. It should have been done the other way. Sometimes we put the cart before the horse. But ladies and gentlemen, again, if you are starting your ministry, if you are rebuilding your ministry, go back over the things that we discussed in the early part of this podcast. You'll need to write a narrative of activities in your articles of incorporation, including your bylaws. You'll have to write a narrative of activities. That's your ministry's plan. Your narrative of activities tells what your ministry plans to do with the people who are a part of your ministry, as well as wherever it is that you are. Like if you're going to be in the community, if you're going to be doing things in the community, let that be known and part of your discipling. If you're whatever it is that you're doing, you have to state that in your articles, right? And then you submit your articles, you submit your bylaws, and you submit your financial projections. The only way that you can really fully understand what your financial projections are, you need an accountant or a financier. You need someone who is knowledgeable in that area, someone who knows finances, someone who knows accounting. You need that in order for you to have good financial projections, because me sitting down, I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what the budget is. I don't know. That's not my area. My area is administration. My area is business building. Okay. My area is music. I know what that is. I can learn those things. Yes, absolutely. And we probably do need cross training and different things. If you're on a board, if you are a board member, you need to cross train with everybody else who has the skills to do whatever it is that they're going to be doing. You need those skills. You need cross training, right? So that no one is dumb about anything, even if it's the simplistic things that you need, the high level, just high level training. You need that. Now, once you have written your narrative of activities, that's your ministry's plan again, you submit your articles of incorporation, you submit your bylaws, and you submit your financial projections. You're going to declare your religious purpose, and you're going to show how no one on your board, I cannot reiterate this enough, no one on the board is benefiting personally from the church. Okay? This form is a shield. 1023 and 1023 EZ. That is a shield. Fill it out with clarity and fill it out with prayer. These are things that we need to do in order to be safe, in order to structure ourselves right, in order to set ourselves up for success and not failure. We have to operate the right way. And the most important components are to set up your taxes, are to set up get right with the IRS, make sure that the 501c3 is intact. These things need to be done, and they need to be done right. We need to file these records. So first things first, right? First things first, what are we talking about first? We're talking about the church's purpose. That's our statement of faith. We're talking about the membership criteria. All of that should be listed in the bylaws. We're talking about meetings and voting rules, board of directors and officers, and how that should be set up. How do we vote them in? What should we be looking for as the qualifications of these people, who are going to be on this board? What is their integrity level like? What is their truth level like? What is their transparency like? We want to make sure that we are safeguarding the ministry. We are safeguarding the interest of the members of the church. We are safeguarding the ministry for the future. Because again, your ministry should not die along with you. It should not be buried along with you. Your ministry is set. It's something that you said you were inspired by God to do. A ministry is something that goes on and on and on. It should never die because you pass away or because someone attempts to illegally take it over and reshape it into their image. No, that's not your opportunity to do that. The framing was already set, and the laws are put into place for a reason. The bylaws are put into place for a reason. The articles of incorporation are put into just for the sole purpose of safeguarding, so that you can have a 50-year anniversary, so that you can have a 100-year celebration. When we are long dead and gone, will the ministry survive for the generations that come after us? Will they? Will the ministry survive? Let me say one thing about New Life Church of Orlando. New Life Church of Orlando has gone through some tremendous transitions. It has gone through tremendous transitions, and it has gone through long transitions. And we have finally found a home, a forever home, right? And the dream about this was to continue this on forever, for the rest of, until Bishop had passed away, and until whoever comes behind him and whoever comes behind him. And we don't just stay there at that one location. Maybe we do. Maybe we grow on. When you have churches that have been in existence for 100 years, they have had a succession of great leaders who held things in place and were financially savvy. Not only were they financially savvy, but they were smart. They were smart businessmen and businesswomen, and they were also gifted with command of the word. They were knowledgeable in being able to teach, to lead, to implement, to grow, they are able. When you see ministries that are long lasting, that have lasted for a period of 50 years or more, that is due to the fact that prior to their passing, that was established on a solid foundation, a good ground, a good framework, right? And so in order for us to continue to do things the right way, that is the reason why the articles of incorporation and the bylaws were instituted, and they were also signed, sealed, and delivered at the state level. So that something like this, if it were to happen to us like it is now, and people are trying, Dennis and his team of people are trying their hardest to fight the bylaws that were instituted and put in place. And it blows my mind that someone who is as maybe possibly educated as Robbie Pressey is, that he would continue to try to go down that vein to take this church from us against the will of the people, against the will of the bylaws. Dennis would do that against the will of the people. And he says, well, I know y'all don't want me. Negro, it's not about us not wanting you. It wasn't done right. You didn't do it right. You enacted out of your own, and you did not enact yourself or act in the essence of these bylaws and these articles of incorporation. You went against it to try and benefit yourself and disbenefit us, we the people. And that is not something that we want to see happen again, over and over and over and over and over again. We want to be we want longevity. We want longevity. And so again, ladies and gentlemen, lay the groundwork, choose your legal name, get your articles of incorporation set straight, get an EIN, incorporate with the state. Going to go back over this again, because your first first thing that you need to do is you need to lay the groundwork. Again, you cannot build what God wants without order. We are not going to be able to rebuild. You are not going to be able to initiate building, not if you're saying it's what God wants, unless you have order. 1 Corinthians 14:40, write that down. It's very clear. Let all things be done decently and in order. Again, it's not about the paperwork. It's about protecting your calling. All right. This is about protecting your calling. This is about longevity. This is about the people of God who have lent themselves under your leadership, so that they would appreciate and understand that things are set up. People joined churches when I was growing up. They would join churches for a lifetime. My grandparents died in the church that they joined and initiated. They died there. I have aunts and uncles who are still parts of the ministries that they grew up in as children. I have cousins that are parts of the ministries that they grew up as children. Longevity. When people join a church, they don't join. I know there's a saying out there that church is a revolving door. And I know that life throws different challenges at us and we don't remain in the same place. But most of the time when people want to join a ministry, they are doing it for life. Nobody wants to flip-flop hip-hop from here, there, this way, that way. The only people that do that, in my opinion, are people who are in state or unstable, who have instability in their spirits that keeps them from being planted. And most people want to be planted. They want to stay rooted and grounded. I've seen churches fall apart, again, not because the Spirit of God was gone, but because the structure was missing. I'm walking you through I've walked you through those 7 legal and biblical steps to help you rise up from the rubble and rebuild God's house with integrity. So again, if you are starting your ministry or if you are rebuilding, these are the 7 steps. Choose your name. Choose your name. If you have a name, it may be a possibility, right, that the name has to change. So we have to be prepared to go into prayer to find a name. Again, God gave Adam the authority to name everything in Eden. That's Genesis 2:19. And again, it is not just poetic. In the legal world, when you name something, that gives you ownership. What if the ownership of the name was taken from us? What do we do? Because that name establishes our identity. Okay, the name establishes our identity. Here's the mistake that I want people not to make. Don't pick a trendy name, and don't pick any type of name without checking the state database, right? Don't do it. Don't pick a name without thinking it through, without thinking through your mission, or even what we teach theologically. What we stand on as a doctrine, or what you stand on as a doctrine. Search your state's corporate name database. Grab a domain. You're not just branding, claim the territory. We claim Pine Hills. We claim Pine Hills. 3311, we claim Pine Hills. 3311 North Powers Drive, we claim Pine Hills. And that's not all we're going to claim. We're not just branding, we're claiming territory. And once you have claimed your territory, because now you put your name out there, you've got your name established, you know who you are, your identity is established, right? You're claiming your territory. We may have to rename. I don't know. Hopefully we won't. Prayerfully, we won't. We don't know what this man is doing. We have to be prepared for anything and everything. Because when I tell you this man is a snake, a slithering snake, a slithering snake, and he has snakes all around him. I remember the dream I had a dream when we were going through this. And it wasn't even really a dream. It was actually like a vision. And it's so clear to me. It is so very clear because I remember I wasn't feeling too well. So I had called off from work that day. And I had done some things around the house, and I was sitting around the house and I was cleaning up and whatnot. And I sat down on the couch. And when I sat down on the couch, I drifted. And in the vision that I saw myself on a bicycle. Now, I was on a bicycle and I was riding down Powers Drive. And I turned into the driveway of the church at 3311 North Powers Drive. And when I turned into the drive, those of you who are familiar with our church at 3311 North Powers Drive, if you are coming from Silver Star and you're driving north on Powers Drive from Silver Star, you're going to make a right into the church driveway. And that's what I did. I was in the dream, I was coming from that way. And I remember it so vividly that out of nowhere, this dog, and in the vision, the dog looked like a Jack Russell. And the dog came running up beside me while I was riding the bike, playfully. And so there was the driveway had the driveway parking to go to the park and everything had potholes in it. In the dream, it had potholes. In the vision, and what I was seeing, it had potholes. And I was going around to the back of the church. And the back of the church has an area. There's a large overhanging. I guess you would call it an overhang. It's a large overhang where you can fit about 2 cars in it at the same time, either facing the same direction or facing opposite. It's a very wide. But when I turned the corner, I saw this giant ball. It was a very, very, very big ball. And it was a ball of snakes. And one snake came out of the ball, pulled his head out of the ball, and he saw me. And when he saw me, 2 other snakes pulled their heads out of the ball, and they were huge snakes, dragon size snakes. They were large. The whole ball was a big ball. It covered like the whole back of the church. But the 3 snakes saw me, and I saw in the vision, the little dog turned around and ran and jumped into one of the potholes. And I immediately turned around because the snakes came out of the ball and they came chasing after me. There was 3 of them. And I scooped up the dog in my dream as I was passing by. I saw the dog in the pothole and I scooped up the dog and kept riding on the bike. I got away and I come up out of the vision, and I was so puzzled. So I called one of my prophet friends, and he began to explain to me what the meaning of the dream or the vision was that I saw. And it made so much sense. And ever since he said that to me, he also gave me scriptures to read. And I've been reading those scriptures ever since. I go back and listen to the message that he told me to do based on that vision that I saw. And we are living in that vision because it is coming out. The vision that I saw, we're living in. Now, the dog actually represents people. And it represents the people of the ministry, and me scooping up the dog was symbolic of the care that I have for the church and the people of the ministry. So let's going back through that. Remember, now that we have a name, one of the things that we need to do is we need to get our bylaws written. We need to write the bylaws. We need to write the articles of incorporation, talk about the purpose, the structure of the meetings, and the amendments. That says to the state, this is who we are. We are a nonprofit. We are mission driven. And you need to include your purpose, a dissolution clause, and make sure it states you're not organized for private gain. You also need to contact the IRS. Go to irs.gov and get your EIN, which is your employer identification number. This is basically your church's federal ID. Reference scripture, Matthew, the 17th chapter, the 27th verse. It talks about Jesus paying taxes. And the question is, why did he? It's not because Jesus had to, but he did this to avoid offense and be above reproach. So when we get our EIN, that is what we're doing. We are incorporating with the state. We've written our bylaws and we are filing. We are filing those records. This is how we become a real business, a real incorporation, a real nonprofit in the eyes of the law. According to Jeremiah 29:7, seek the peace of the city. That means that when we do this, we file our records, we're operating legally. We're paying our fees, we're submitting our articles of incorporation, and we're getting that certificate that says we are legal. So we got our church purpose, we have our statement of faith, we have our membership criteria, our meetings, our voting rules, our board of directors, how they should be elected, how our finances are managed, how we resolve conflict. And again, and lastly, remember that the danger of neglecting your bylaws are that you could possibly, you lose your 501c3, you lose credibility, and you risk abuse. Okay? You risk abuse. Get a real bylaws template. Don't use someone else's. Consult with an attorney, a business attorney, a business attorney. Consult with a business attorney, ladies and gentlemen. This is big. This is how the IRS formally recognizes you as a nonprofit, because you're going to consult with the business attorney, you're going to get your template for your bylaws, and you're going to file form 1023 or 1023EZ with the IRS. Make sure that you write a narrative of activities that shows your ministry plan. Submit your articles of incorporation, your bylaws, and your financial projections. Get an accountant. Declare your religious purpose and show how no one on your board is personally benefiting from the church. And that's it. Now, if you like what you heard today, please share, please like, please share, because I want people to understand how important it is to legally register the church in the state that you live in. You need to do that. That has to be done. You have to legally register your church in the state, in the city that you live in, okay? It's very important. These are things that you don't want to miss out on. You don't want to miss these things. You want to be able to do these things, and you want to do them the right way. Now, I'm coming back on tomorrow afternoon because I have some things to share. It's not Conversation Kings, ladies and gentlemen. It is totally different. It's not Conversation Kings. It's something different. This tomorrow is where I talk about the things that are going on in the community, the things that are going on in the state, the things that are going on in politics, the things that are going on around the world. And there is a lot happening. There's a lot happening, and we want to talk about it. But on this podcast, we talk about how to build ministry, how to strengthen ministry, how to rebuild. And so this segment number 4, this is lesson 4, was totally a teaching about setting up your church the right way, the legal way. Strong articles of incorporation, strong bylaws, 1023EZ, 1023, your EIN, your name, making sure that everything is legal and in place. So if there ever happens to be a situation that your church is in and you are not independent like we are, maybe you need to seek independence from a denomination. I'm not telling people to do that, but what I'm telling people, what I'm proliferating to people is the dangers of being in a denomination and having your ministry pulled out, the rug pulled out from under your feet. That was something that New Life experienced in 1999, which is why this happened. So that it would never happen again, or so we thought. And here we are again, fighting, not externally, but internally. And then external things are coming with that internal fight that's going on. He's brought in external people to help fight us as well. So I pray that God removes these obstacles so that we can at least have some clearance for a little while, because I know that other things will come, but this is not something that we want to deal with. But maybe it's a necessary evil that puts us back on our knees and puts us in a place where God can say, this is how you need to do it. This is what needs to be done so that it doesn't happen to you like this again. Right. And so for all of the ministries around the country that are faced with the same situation, especially those of us that are part of the Church of God in Christ that are experiencing these things, look at your articles of incorporation. Find ways to make yourself independent of the denomination. It does not mean that you do not follow the doctrine of the denomination, but you have put your church in a safety net to not have to depend on the church. There are some churches who have no choice. I think for the most part that sometimes falls on the leadership and his or her inability to be able to learn how to become financially independent. Make financial decisions that are sound financial decisions so that you do not end up in a quandary. There's over $1 million that we were looking at. $1 million, and none of it have we seen. None of it. It should have paid off the church, paid off the parsonage, and then the monies that were in the bank prior to Bishop's passing. And the money that was left over after everything was taken care of was for the maintenance and the upkeep. The roof needs to be repaired. Bad. There are so many things. The electrical needs to be repaired. There are so many things that the building is sick. It needs a health check. The building is sick all the way around. I'm just telling it like it is. There are things that need to be done, and we're at a standstill because other things are being done with the money other than what needs to be done to maintain the health of the building, to maintain the grounds, to maintain the church as a whole and in part. So set yourself up for success, pastors, bishops, ministers, administrators, whoever you are, whatever type of ministry it is that you are doing. Don't let your ministry die with you. I'll see you all next time.